Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to our USAID new partner, Mr. Chigoze. Let us all welcome him, and you'll be hearing about him and his profile in a while. It is my great opportunity to present to this august audience the 8th Clean Water Talks, Pani Pe Charcha, by Mr. Anuj Sharma from Piramal Sarvajal on the role of IoT for improved service delivery from water ATM. Clean Water Talks, as we know, are a series of talks under the program SEVA, Sustainable Enterprises for Water and Health, which are undertaken by the USAID and Safe Water Network Joint Alliance Program. Here, we invite the speaker who is the stalwart in their sector to come and share knowledge and experiences about their program. And in a while, we'll be hearing from Mr. Anuj Sharma. Before we start, all of you know me, but as a brief introduction, I am Poonam Sevak, Vice President's Program and Partnership from Safe Water Network. Safe Water Network is a New York-based NGO with operations in India and Ghana. We work on 4 pillars: policy and advisory, field implementation, direct services of safe water delivery to the poor, on technical advisory service, and leading the Safe Water Enterprise Alliance. Now, let me introduce you in detail with our new USAID agreement officer who will be leading the SEVA program for us since our last AOR, Mr. Anand Rudra, has retired. Mr. Chigoze is a Foreign Service Officer from USAID. He works from the India office, primarily working on environmental issues. He has great experiences on wash, air pollution, sustainable landscapes, biodiversity, and locally led development. He brings a lot of knowledge with him and experience with respect to monitoring and evaluation, service design and implementation, and his experience has been particularly good in the sub-Saharan Africa. Prior to joining USAID, Mr. Chigoze has worked with the University of Colorado in US. He has worked on the Energy Nexus in UK, Germany, and US. He holds a Master's of Public Policy and a Master's of Science in Natural Resource Management from the University of Michigan. So let us please give a hand to Mr. Chigoze and welcome him. Sir, a very warm welcome to you. May you have a very great journey in India. We are all your partners. We are the best in the country, and currently in this program, almost 8 to 10 of the Safe Water Enterprise implementing partners are there with you. So over to you, sir, to speak a few words. After that, I will introduce Anuj and the program.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Poonam. And good afternoon, everyone. And I hope you're all doing well. Like Poonam mentioned, I work with USAID in India primarily on environmental issues, including water, hygiene, and sanitation. And it's a pleasure to be here today and participate in the Clean Water Talks. As we are all aware, water scarcity and access to clean water are among some of the most complex developmental challenges. Things like population growth, climate change, and aging infrastructure all make the challenge more complex and difficult to address. However, I believe that we must strive to find innovative ways to address these challenges to ensure that everyone has access to clean water. And I think that the Safe Water Network Small Water Enterprises exemplifies that. The Safe Water Network Small Water Enterprises uses unique approaches to address water issues while also helping small entrepreneurs. USAID has always viewed water development as a critical priority in India and globally, working collaboratively with local stakeholders. We work to improve access to clean water, improve sanitation and waste management, especially for marginalized communities. For example, in India, USAID works with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and other stakeholders to mobilize and catalyze private and public resources to create solutions for water, sanitation, and hygiene challenges. And we believe that such partnerships are instrumental in improving access to safe and affordable water. The Safe Water Network has been promoting water ATMs as a solution for providing clean water reliably and affordably to the underserved communities. Today, we'll learn from Mr. Anuj Sharma, the CEO of Piramal Sarvaja, on strategies to improve the delivery of water ATMs. And I look forward to learning more from the conversation. Thank you so much, Poonam. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chigoze. I must say, Anuj, today we have got a century of participants and they are all very eager to hear you. Now, speaking briefly about Piramal Sarvajal, the organization which Anuj Sharma represents. Sarvajal Piramal was established in 2008 and currently they are serving more than 800,000 consumers daily through the franchisee model of decentralized safe drinking water. They have a network of almost 19,000 touch points spread across 20 states, which means they have the footprint all across India. Piramal Sarvajal pioneered the remote monitoring system, and that's the reason why we are having them here. And they also brought in other innovations to ride on this. Example, solar powered, IoT, transformational technology, and financial different models. So with this, Piramal stands to serve the decentralized water market to the urban poor, to the rural poor. Coming to Mr. Anuj Sharma. Mr. Anuj Sharma is the CEO of Piramal Sarvajal. He has more than 18 years of experience in the development sector, of which 12 years is in the water domain. He is a graduate from IRMA and has got many rewards and recognitions. He has been a scholar with Amul Tata, GSBI Fellow. He is recognized by CMO Asia and The Economist in South Asia. So welcome to you, Anuj, and over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Poonamji, and thank you, Mr. Chigoze. So first of all, my heartfelt thanks both to Safe Water Network and to USAID for organizing this series of talks. I guess this is a great idea that, the sector always needed. And now through both of your effort, we are finally able to sort of meet and learn from each other. So thank you for that. Now, Poonam, I guess I'll have to request first Mr. Arvind to play the video, and I think I'll get into the talk right after that.
मेरा नाम मोनिका है। मेरे घर में मेरी माँ है, मेरे पिताजी हैं, मेरा एक भाई है और मेरे 2 बच्चे हैं। मैं हूँ। टैंकर के पानी और बोरिंग के पानी में हमें दिक्कत होती थी। टैंकर में लाइन लगानी पड़ती थी, उससे हमारी ड्यूटी का भी नुकसान होता था और उसके चक्कर में हम पानी ढंग से भर नहीं सकते थे और हमारी दिहाड़ी भी जाती थी।
हमें बहुत परेशानी हो रही थी पानी के लिए। पानी की कोई भी सुविधा नहीं थी। पूरी कॉलोनी में सिर्फ 1 या 2 टैंकर आता था, जिसमें भी इतनी लड़ाई, इतना झगड़ा होता था, फिर भी उसमें घुस के पानी भरते थे। आसपास के दुकान वाले आए, उन्होंने अपने फिल्टर का पानी बेचने लगे। वो 20 रुपए एक बोतल देते थे। हमारा घर का बजट खाली पानी में ही चला जाता, जिससे हमें इतनी दिक्कत होती थी कि पहले सबसे पहले पानी का बजट निकालो।
A lot of people in urban areas actually have their jobs, especially we started working in resettlement colony. They were having to go and come back, like it was taking them 2 hours each going and coming back. And you needed something for them which was available 24/7 because the tanker might actually come during the day and people were having to fight over it.
हब एंड स्कोप मॉडल के अंदर एक आरओ प्लांट लगा होता है, साथ में एटीएम्स भी लगे होते हैं जो कि हब से ही रिफिलिंग हो जाते हैं। जो आउटर में अलग अलग ब्लॉक्स के अंदर कॉलोनी में वाटर एटीएम्स लगे हुए हैं, उनके लिए एक वाटर टैंकर्स की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है।
Then we thought, saying, why can't we put up one machine as a hub? We create a non-touch way of refilling the ATMs and put the ATMs as spokes, so that in multiple places people can get drinking water simultaneously, and this should be available 24/7.
आसान है, जैसे एटीएम में पैसे लेने जाते थे और अब एटीएम से एकदम से पानी लेते हैं।
सरोवर जल जो है बहुत उत्तम है, इससे हमारी कॉलोनी फायदा में उठा रही है। हमारी कॉलोनी का कोई बच्चा, कोई औरत, कोई बूढ़ा, कोई जवान बीमार नहीं हो रहा है। उत्तम जल है।
सरोवर जल की पानी हमारे लिए अच्छा पड़ रहा है, सस्ता भी पड़ रहा है, पीने में भी अच्छा लग रहा है। कोई लड़ाई झगड़ा कुछ बात नहीं है, आदमी जाता है शाम से लिए आता है, अपना पीता है अपने घर।
There's a significantly large number of households in urban areas who are not getting good quality drinking water supply. They don't have piped water supply to their households. We need to provide a dignified solution to all our slum dwellers. So that's my request to them, and whatever it takes from our side to sort of work together to make that agenda work, we are very happy to join hands with anyone and everyone.
So, hello again, everyone. I think what Poonam described in her initial introduction, which is to say this is 8th episode of the series, which basically means that different aspects of decentralized drinking water solutions have been already covered. And what I have been asked is to sort of offer insights and focus largely on how Internet of Things, IoT, the acronym, actually helps improve the service delivery in case of water ATM. So what you just saw was a video of our urban model, which is where we believe saying IoT finds a special application. And so I'll be covering these 5 points that you can see on your screen. So let's get started, and moving forward, what I would like to show and sort of draw your notice towards it. So where did this tech innovation start and how? So you see that big black box on a purification machine. And this is a picture, I think, at least 7-8 years old. Now, we had actually created this about 10-11 years back. And what you see on the map is the IoT-enabled real-time monitoring for each of the machines that is equipped with what we call Sucha. Now, what does it do? It actually gives you last-mile service data. It gives you an accountability towards your service, okay? If you would click once more, Arvind. So what we see here is that the same principle has also been recently applied to piped drinking water. I am not sure whether this had been earlier shared with my colleagues who are operating in the same sector. And what we can now do is not only tell you about the status of pipe water networking, how much water is being pushed through, but also the data around how the water table, groundwater table, if that is moving over a period of time. What you see on the screen here is the value chain of the solution. You basically have a purification setup, an entrepreneur or a local operator as the centerpiece. Data comes to the Surf headquarters, gets analyzed, and the maintenance services are provided based on that. And there are obviously community awareness and local marketing, bit of support provided to various locations. Consumers have 3 different choices of coming and fetching water from location, or getting it home delivered, or getting it from the ATM itself. Now, having described the tool and the solution value chain, now this is a picture that I would like you to take some time to absorb, because there are multiple dimensions to it. There's a very clear quality challenge. There's a very clear access challenge. And these are both pictures from Delhi, from the parts where we worked. What I also want us to notice is the indignity in the way people are having to fetch something as basic as their daily water needs. Now, so what are we doing about it, or how we started thinking about it, and what led to the model that I'm going to describe to you? We started asking ourselves a question, saying, what would be an ideal urban solution? The basic idea was it should provide reliable access, and it should be at least 24/7. It should not be overly power supply dependent. Click, please, Arvind. 2 more. Yeah. So similarly, we said, saying, how do we ensure quality? And not only ensure, we actually communicate quality, quantity, and price to the consumer so that there is an accountability, there is a transparency. And similarly, we also asked ourselves a question, how do we create something which survives the environment that it is going to operate in? When we decided to operate in Delhi slums about 8 years back, almost every well-wisher gave us the advice saying your hardware, whatever you will deploy on the roadside, will be taken away in no time. So be careful. And honestly, more than 7 years of operating, more than 70 locations in Delhi, and I can't really report a single incidence of that kind. Once or twice this happened. That also happened because some of the local folks, local corporators were involved who were debating whether ATM should be on this side of the road or on the other side. But the community, if something works for them, community definitely takes care of it. Once we had this thematic idea, now what you see on the left of your screen is the schematic of what we call hub and spoke model. So basically you have a purification machine, you have a no-touch vehicle as shown in the video, and you have a couple of ATMs. And ATMs could come in different form factors. They could look differently and they could have their tank placed differently. But the basic idea remains the same. They are solar powered, they are cloud computing connected, and they are RFID card enabled. So basically the same hub, same purification source is getting leveraged and purified, and the water is being made available everywhere with the help of the information layer. So basically a tank is telling you, hello, I am ATM number 4, 1,000-liter capacity down to 200 liter, please come and replenish. So that is the type of information layering and IoT enablement that hub and spoke model receives on every single day, on every single hour, every minute. So what it results into is, please click once. So now let's have a value chain view of it. It definitely makes sure saying the purity is, the purity boundary conditions are adhered to. So the Sucha takes care of the vital process parameters. It takes care of saying the water is reaching whichever ATM requires refilling, etc. So the accessibility is taken care of. It makes sure saying people are able to access water 24/7, and it's at the price that has been told to them. So the affordability and quantity, all of those is actually taken care of. And in essence, what you get is instead of walking 500 meters or a kilometer in the slum to reach that one single source of water, people can actually walk only 50 steps next to their lane, and they can find an access ATM and take water, be it 11 p.m. in the night or 5 a.m. in the morning. Because of the solar powered nature, it's also not dependent on the power grid. Yeah. We have done this in Delhi, in Bhubaneswar, in Lakshmangarh, in Pune. What I would like to draw your attention to is the chart in the Bhubaneswar box. The Bhubaneswar box shows one red and one orange bar. The red bar actually is about our experience during the Fani cyclone. And as you can notice, it did not significantly affect the performance and hence the volume. Similarly, when you look at the orange bar, you recognize that during even the first lockdown, our team on the ground worked with the administration and kept the service going. And during the COVID lockdown, as an essential service, water, safe drinking water was available to the 40 ATMs in Bhubaneswar city, 24/7, every single day. Now, this is what is possible only when you have that kind of information layering and you know what kind of support is needed. What I would like to share here is that there are 3 parts to the whole thing. There's a process parameter reader on the purification process, which is Sucha, which sends us some vital information. which allows us to do proactive maintenance and, other activities related to purification process. Similarly, you have water ATMs, which, give you all the information about how many cards are being swiped, at what hour there is the peak load and stuff like that, right? And how often it is getting refilled, etc. So there are those two ends, and in between there is all this data, which is either on the process parameter or on the ATM side, which is at the consumer level. Now, this is what put together enables it. This is what I would say the IoT backbone of a hub and spoke model is. There was a specific question on the first slide that I showed all of you, that what are the KPIs at different stages. When we started, it was pretty simple to say, oh, whether even the machines are functional or not. Where are they and are they functional? And this is like a maturity model that we've been able to develop over the period of time, right? So the first thing is just knowing where your machines are and how are they functional. You're going to the second box. You start tracking transactions for the ATM, but what you're basically doing is you're trying to figure out the utilization. So functional status, you are getting into utilization. You come to the third one, where you are able to see whether the plant is completely automated, what kind of sensors are sort of, requiring maintenance attention, and all the cloud related data transaction, is that being optimized, etc. And fourthly, when you come to the last box, you are able to, based on all the data collected over a period of time for each location, you can actually optimize to say, oh, you don't really need to refill this ATM with 500 liters every day. 300 liter refilling is sufficient, instead of leaving 500 liter for 2 days, right? And risking somebody running out of water at the fag end of the second day. So that kind of optimization and the proactive maintenance. And in fact, I generally like to mention, saying it's very interesting when people think of technology and of IoT, they think of only the hardware related things can actually be tracked. But in our case, we have been able to map community awareness exercises with the water offtake over the next 15 days after the exercise to say which marketing or advertising or awareness activity was actually useful to the community and it took the volume up, and which ones were not really so effective. So honestly, even in the corporate world where people are debating the usefulness of some advertisement campaigns and some marketing campaigns, actually in something as basic as safe drinking water on a daily basis, you can really track it because of the IoT application here. I just quickly want to capture the three case studies that sort of deeply affect me, and I believe they'll deeply affect you also. The two pictures being juxtaposed on the left-hand side, they say a lot. Basically, you are seeing the same people fighting versus same people very peacefully waiting for their turn. Why? A lot of the time we are given advice that, oh, these are hostile situation, hostile location, these communities are not going to take care of the hardware you're going to deploy. I think all of that is false. It all depends on what kind of design choices we are offering, what kind of experience we are offering. And based on that, the behavior gets, displayed. So honestly, to me, these two pictures put together, they basically say, if you give them right design choices, the good citizen comes out, right? And if we were also having to fight for our fair share and we were not sure how long the tanker is going to be there, etc., then obviously, the best of the citizenry behavior will take a backseat. Now, moving to the other story here on this slide, this picture actually comes from the disruption that happened because Munnak Canal was under the control of agitators for 2-3 days, and Delhi's water supply for those 2-3 days was actually down by 75%. We operate only in non-piped communities in Delhi, but the neighborhoods where piped water was available, many of those people living there during those days came to our ATM to take water, and our water ATMs had 300% surge. It's not about us having 300% surge and the ability to serve that. What it actually tells us is that there is a complementary system required, which is off-grid, where the grids are susceptible to disruption. So the off-grid solutions are much more robust in that sense. The third part of the slide is an incident from Shimla, where the pipe water got compromised, and we were asking, what can you do? We had only few ATMs there at that point. And we said, saying, well, what we can do is we can send SMSs to everybody who holds our card, because we do have their mobile number, and tell them to tell their neighbors that the pipe water is not safe for next few hours. And what you can do is you can access water from these water ATMs without even having a card. You can just push the button and get the water. And we'll be logging on all the liters, and we can present that bill to the municipal corporation, which we did eventually, and they paid for it. And the idea is when they are saying, how long will it take you to do it? And, I don't know how many of you realize we are based at Ahmedabad. And it took us only 2 hours to get everything converted from the card model to non-card model for that next 15-20 day period. And this is what led to at least the free access to everyone quickly. So I just thought saying these 3 stories should be able to capture how quick response, calamity response, design choices, related behavior display, all of those things get affected and get enabled by the IoT application here. So I was asking, how does the cost and benefit sort of play out for this technology? So honestly, the development of technology is something that I'm not going to talk about here, because I think the view is that of a practitioner. So it adds about 10% to a purification setup. It adds in capital expenditure standpoint, it adds about 5% to the operational expenses annually. Now, in terms of benefits, there are different ways of looking at benefits. It does not directly allow you to raise your prices, and you shouldn't be, because you are in a very different niche. Underserved community is what you are serving. What it allows you to do is it avoids the risk of preventive maintenance not happening, or service getting interrupted, or refills not happening, or the quality going bad, and hence you getting some sort of a customer drop because of that. So it allows you to minimize all those risks. That's one. Secondly, Arvind, please click 3 times. Yeah. Secondly, anybody and everybody who has operated decentralized system and who have come to a certain size of, let's say, 50 locations, they recognize that there are always challenges related to pilferage. Okay, they are not able to account for the volume of water dispensed and the revenue actually received. And when those things don't match, obviously, it's very difficult for you to figure out whether the solution is going to be sustainable or not. And so honestly, for one or for a system to go beyond the size of 50, right, one needs this information layering. Once you have done that, and especially in the card format, you actually develop a prepaid float, because instead of pending payments, you actually have prepaid payments on the float side. So that's another plus there, which is enabled again by IoT. The second last thing I would say is, in this urban model especially, IoT allows you to use one single water source for much larger catchment area in the community, which allows you to raise volume, which means that revenues will be higher, and hopefully it will lead to better sustainability. And all in all, I would say, and the last click, Arvind, it is avoiding cost of disruption, it is better tracking, and it is better survey. It is not directly going to allow you to jump your revenue number or anything. So application in one part of Delhi versus application in another part of Delhi, or another part of Lakshmangarh, or another part of Bhubaneswar could lead to different level of revenue realization. But I hope this gives a decent picture to everyone, saying what are the cost implications and what are the benefits accrued. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity again to Safe Water Network and to USAID. I am happy to respond to any comments, queries. Over to you.
So Anuj, thank you very much for the very detailed presentation. And I am sure all the participants would have learned a lot. The remote monitoring system, as you say, by the name Suchak, definitely gives a lot of information. Suchak in Hindi means information provider. And we are very pleased to know that it was providing you information not only with respect to where your ATMs are located, asset location, to visibility of the performance of your water ATM, to predictive maintenance, to even providing you information with respect to IEC feedback, being a big tool in disruption management, community information systems, because you are tracking your consumer. So all in all, we heard that it gives a gamut of services, and it is one of the very essential component for any decentralized safe water enterprise to have, so that they are able to give reliable and uninterrupted service delivery, especially in the sector where we are seeing a very huge failure rate of non-performance because of lack of operations and maintenance or information, etc. So I have requested all the participants to definitely share their questions, but I will begin with the first question which has come to me, and here they are asking, with respect to Suchak, is it available for everybody to use in the sector, or is it a proprietary software, as we saw on the screen on the presentation that it is patented? And if somebody has to do it, what is the process to go and proceed in this business?
So I think great question. The first question, I'm really thankful to whoever asked this. So honestly, yes, we did take patent out. That's our way of proving, saying, this was the global first. This was the application of high tech with a low touch for the underserved out of India, right? And taking a US patent was just a global pioneering sort of stand there. But honestly, we have never used the patent card to say, oh, you can't do it. There are many other players also who have developed various remote monitoring applications. And as far as Servgel's Suchak is concerned, anyone who's operating multiple machines and wants to adopt this technology, this is available, and they can sort of buy both the hardware as well as services.
Thank you, Anuj. I'll ask you questions rapidly because I am getting multiple questions, sir. Next question is from Dr. Hemant. What are the dimensions of the circular ATM machine so that it can be erected in the slum areas where the pathway is very small? So, and whether any distribution network connected to these ATMs, can your trucks drive in those narrow lanes?
So I think, again, very pertinent question. I tried to answer part of it in the chat itself. So 1 meter diameter and about 10 feet high. So it does not lend itself to any and every lane. But what it typically does is when the lanes are getting connected to some, let's say a 2-lane sort of a road, that is where you can place. So it reduces from 1 kilometer to 100 meters. Honestly, it doesn't really, I mean, it's not a household level solution. So I would grant that. And the trucks are also the smaller size. So they can be maneuvered in the smaller lanes also, but not really in the sort of last 100 meters of a slum situation. So yeah, that much one has to walk, and we have to also allow for the volume to happen. If the 100 households to an ATM will finally make sure an ATM is actually useful there.
Thank you very much. This is a question from Dr. TNVV Rao, who would like to know what quality aspects are measured by IoT in Suchak.
Dr. Rao, great question again. So I think what we do is a combination of product monitoring as well as the process monitoring. To give you an example on the product monitoring, we all know that the conductivity is a proxy for total dissolved solid. So is that within the range or not? Now, when it comes to the bacterial count, etc., in spite of having had all the progress in the last few years on this side, still you do not have an online way of checking it. So what we do is we do a potentiometer type of a tracking of our ultraviolet treatment. So if ultraviolet treatment does not function, we would see that this machine is not functional and it will stop. And unless that bulb gets replaced, it will not continue to operate. So this is how the combination of process and product tracking helps the quality being tracked. I hope this answers both parts.
Next question is from Mr. Amit Kumar at Janajal. He wants to know, working in the various cities and especially with various internet connectivity service providers, how has the IoT system faced with respect to continuous feedback of the performance of the water ATMs?
Yeah, so great question once again. I mean, I think we were lucky that we started developing this for rural India. So honestly, we made almost everything which was possible to be done on 2G. We built it that way. So it remained light. And there are certain parts which are ATM related, GPRS based, which are directly, they do require internet. And from time to time, we have actually struggled with that. But with the advent of machine to machine data transfer and specific SIMs to that, I think things have improved. What we have also been able to do is wherever we see that there is a greater incidence or a frequent incidence of network outage, we have a proxy system to say, like your Outlook mail, it will sync as and when the network is available. So the consumer is not affected. Consumer can still draw the water. The information gets locked in and then it gets synced.
Thank you very much. What is the exact cost of Suchak and can it replace manpower? What are the data analytics that you undertake? Three
So
questions
honestly,
rolled into one.
yeah, honestly, I'll answer the second first and then third and then.
Sure, sure.
So see, at least at our side, the attempt has never been to replace the operator because that has multiple other roles to play, be it in slum community or in rural community, right? While we have tried and created what we call public place solutions, which were completely unmanned, but then that took more than just a Suchak and ATM, right? But the truth here is, so first of all, that's not even the intent. The reducing manpower there on the Suchak side. The second part of the cost is, like I shared, if a machine is about 3 to 4 lakh and the 10% capex, when you look at the basics are there. Now you could have different sizes of machine, you could have different requirements of a Suchak, which could take the price slightly on the higher side, but this is the range, right? So I've given you a very basic rule of thumb, which is 10%.
40,000 to 60,000, may I convey
Max.
that?
Yeah,
Max. Yeah. And smallest would be?
I think we also had some situation where the microprocessor based solutions were within 35K or something. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And the last question, do you conduct data analytics? How do you give feedback? How do you take remedial action based on that?
So yeah, I mean, this is what I tried and presented in a couple of slides where we said saying we not only respond to the alerts. So there are 3 types, right? One is just knowing what's happening. The second is having a boundary condition. Whenever a boundary condition breaches, there is an alert and reacting to the alert. Then the third is doing a trend analysis and saying, oh, this is what is going to be expected in 15 days from now. So we try and do all the 3. I mean, the first 2 were always there, and the third one is something where we are becoming better and better. But I still believe saying it's nowhere in the range of AI, or if you're sort of looking from that perspective, we are not yet there.
No, thank you very much. This itself is very useful. And now I would not be taking any more questions on this forum in the chat just now. But if anyone wants to ask any additional questions, you can write to us and we will forward it to Sarvajal, and Anuj would be very happy to answer. As we are nearing the last 5 minutes of the session, Mr. Chigose, I would like you to be introduced to our CEO, Mr. Kurt Soderlund. He is an avid fan of Clean Water Talks, and whatever be the time in New York, he's up for the chat. And Kurt, I would also like you to say hi to Anuj. You have met him previously in our conferences, but a retouch would be very good. So over to you, Kurt.
Thank you, Poonam. It's a terrific presentation. Really great to see the way that this IT system has been integrated across the whole operation and then leveraged across the field. That I was particularly intrigued by the offer to make it available to other organizations. And I know that there's a lot of investment that many players are making in IT systems and lots of costs to implement, but then also to sustain those and sustain with new technologies and new implementations. So I think one of the things that'll be interesting to see is how and where there might be some convergence of effort around IT platforms and systems that are leverageable across multiple players. So that may be a question for future discussion, but it's really wonderful to see this presentation, as with the whole series. And I also noted today extremely high attendance. I'm not quite sure what the draw is, the topic, the speaker, or momentum for the series, but in any case, congratulations on that point as well, and looking forward to more to come. Thank you.
Kurt, this was a welcome session for Mr. Chigose, who is our new AOR. He joins in place of Mr. Anand Rudra. And I would like Mr. Chigose and Kurt to share a few moments. And then after that, Mr. Chigose, you can do the wrap up and conclusion. Thank you.
Yes, it's terrific to meet. I did catch the opening remarks, and I look forward to more conversation with you and colleagues at USAID. So thank you, and over to you now.
Thank you so much, Kurt. Looking forward to future conversations as well. Well, thank you so much, Poonam, for the invitation to come to the Clean Water Talks. It was definitely an interesting conversation, learning more about using IT with the water distribution systems. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance and for such good conversations. And I look forward to continuing the discussion. Thank you so much, Poonam.
So thank you all, and a special good wishes to all the sector partners, that as we are moving more and more towards artificial intelligence and IoT, this is a very good step and a very good mechanism to have it on all our water ATMs. We are very grateful to Anuj and Piramal Sarvajal for very candidly sharing all their challenges, situations, the development journey and opportunities for the sector. And we thank you and we wish you very well, Anuj, Piramal Sarvajal. Thank you very much, Mr. Chigose. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you all.